2, 3, 4, the hardest part of the ring. Some hardest part of the ring. Sometimes you go over the top rope into Royal Rumble. Bang your head on the ring apron. That's when you feel like a big dope. They're the worst bumps you can be taking. Oh, it's the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Sometimes you reach out for the hot tag, and you go ahead and make your own comeback. Knock it off. That's when you should quit wrestling, and you're better off rolling in thumbtacks. AEW, the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. And sometimes you're distracting the referee, and the babyface has your wrestler pinned. Then you get punched to the ring apron, and you realize all the trouble you're in, 'cause it's the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Hey, double claps. Let's go, Bob Squad. Bonus hardest part of the ring. I can't hear you at home. Hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da. Wow, what is happening right now? It is a bonus out of nowhere, out of left field, like bird shit on your jacket when you're having a great day. Hardest part of the ring. We're doing a classic, the 1993 Royal Rumble. Ah, yes. Son of a bitch. God damn it, pal. That's good shit. Ha ha, yes. Yokozuna's so big. God damn it, pal. All right. Hey, yeah, this is wild, Bob Squad. Throwing a little extra. It's been a long time since we did one of these, and then it's so hard to navigate through the Peacock version of the network. I don't think Saturday night's main events are on there, which I really would rather do one of those. I don't think the pay-per-views represent these time periods quite as much as the Saturday night's main events. I think the Saturday ones catch the fun of the era more than a pay-per-views a little bit. Pay-per-views were a little more formal in a weird way, if you will. Be that as it may, this is the 1993 Royal Rumble. Why is this one special? Why should you watch it, first of all? Let's do that. Why should you watch it? Now, on paper, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Bret's title reign was very new. He predictably beats Razor for one of his first major challengers, I guess. Well, the gimmick was he was wrestling everybody. Yokozuna wins the thing, and Yoko was brand new, only his second pay-per-view ever. And, of course, the finish with him and Randy gets mocked and ridiculed endlessly when people go over Royal Rumble history. And because I think WrestleMania 9 is not historically critically well received, that the 93 Royal Rumble gets looped in with it quite a bit. Here's why you should watch this show. If you have time. If you don't have time, don't watch this show. It's 28 years old. You have better things to do. But I'm just saying. This is one of those fun pay-per-views where Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon are just left to do what they do. So when you see on paper, oh, okay, Steiners and Beverly brothers, I mean, all right. Or, oh, Bam Bam Bigelow comes back, he wrestles Big Boss Man. Oh, okay, there's a Rumble and the 30 guys in it. Boy, 26 of them don't look, or 24 or 5 of them don't look all that interesting. Oh, okay. Or they just been in a bunch before, and you're like, oh, okay. Doesn't sound that appealing. That's okay. Because Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon are left to do what they do. It is too much fun. The only regrets, we start the network, we start watching on Peacock. Vince McMahon is hardly on this, so he's not in his full. We don't get the full Royal Rumble snarl where he names all 30 people in it. And I think if he did in this case, like previous years, name all 30 people in it, it would be very underwhelming for him to go, Nasty Boy Jerry Sags, the Repo Man, Skinner, Tenru for some reason, Carlos Colon because we have some kind of weird deal with him. I'm not sure. Typhoon, Bob Backlund, Jerry Lawler, who 90% of you don't know yet. Like, it would be really weird if he did that. So maybe that's why. Maybe they just needed a change in format. The traditional Royal Rumble music from the few years prior, that wasn't there, which is also the SummerSlam 88 music, oddly enough. If you need to know, it is a fun trivia fact. Who cares? Anyway, the introduction with Bobby and Gorilla is no more than 30, 40-something seconds long, And we have the first match. Oh, I missed this. I missed this so much. The pay-per-view that starts at 8. In this case, it was 8 p.m. Eastern. Actually, no, it wouldn't have been. It would not have been. It was in Sacramento, California. So, yeah, it would start 8 p.m. Eastern. We only care about New York time in America. So, yeah, if you were there live or watching in the western part of the U.S., it would have probably been 5 p.m. Assuming it was an 8 p.m. show, and almost all of them were. It's a pretty safe bet. What was I going to say next? Was it important? Probably not. The point is that they advertise a pay-per-view that starts at 8 o'clock, and it probably at 8:03 there's a lockup. Like, it's great. I have a bad contact lens. Hang on a second. And I'm back. I didn't even pause it. I finished all of that. I took care of that in a millisecond because I don't like to leave the Bob Squad waiting. We kick off the action with the pretty much more or less debuting Steiner brothers pay-per-view debut, and they just got there, versus the Beverly brothers, who I don't think were doing too much at the time. There's no more genius with them, Lanny Poffo. I don't know if he was let go or just wasn't around. So this was actually less profile for the Beverlys than their previous '92 Rumble match against the Bushwhackers. How about that? Man, the Steiners dumped them on their goddamn heads. Holy shit, that was just brutal. And I know those old WWF rings. I was trained in one of them by WWE Hall of Famer Off the Wild Samoan. If you're one of the new listeners, if you didn't know that, who the fuck cares? And some guy you don't know. The Steiners, yeah, they dropped them on their heads so much. But the Beverlys were there to have a good, it was like a 12, 13-minute match. They were there to make the Steiners look good and let everyone know the Steiners are the new dominant team. Steiners got a hell of a reaction coming out. They had this Michigan music and the jackets, and Bobby and Gorilla are having too much fun. Rick Steiner, of course, wears the amateur wrestling headgear, and Bobby Heenan goes off. Why is he wearing earmuffs? Will you stop? That's to protect his cauliflower ear. And Bobby, the cauliflower ear just means that you lost a lot. It's just good stuff. Good stuff. A match gets 5 stars. Yeah, the Steiners win it. At the time, especially for WWF, it was some pretty innovative stuff. The Beverly Brothers looked like they were going to give a doomsday device to Scott. Scott ducks the incoming clothesline from the top turnbuckle from one of the Beverlys and does a victory roll. That's not the finish. I thought that was going to be the finish. I was incorrect. The finish is just Scott Steiner doing the Frankensteiner. At the time, it was so impressive the way he did it that one guy doing one move in a tag team was the tag team's finisher. They didn't really give a shit. And again, whatever Beverly he dumped on his head, he dumped on his head. Sweet Jesus. And the Beverlys, despite wearing purple and white stars and all that, they were tough dudes, Minnesota guys. The one of them that isn't Mike Enos, I can't think of his name. I know they were Bo and Blake, but I can't think of the guy's actual name. The one that's not Mike Enos had a nasty scar on his right cheek that looked like some kind of stab wound or something. Like, these guys, they weren't pushovers by any means, but they did their job. And yeah, Rick dumped one of them on his head, really crazy, in his German suplex. So Steiners win. Yay, Steiners. And then I take some water. When we go to one of those dream matches on paper until you see it for the Intercontinental Championship, Shawn Michaels is defending against Marty Jannetty. Oh my God, finally we get the Rockers versus Rockers match. There's a lot of stuff wrong with this. This was a great idea on paper. They do a recap for, I guess, late December, where Shawn... let's back up. January of '92, Rockers break up, barbershop window. Shawn is in that '92 Rumble. It's the first time we see him in new gear. Thankfully, he didn't have music. Thankfully, they didn't play music in the Rumble yet because they didn't have any. And I don't even think Sherry was with them until, but by Mania 8 she was. So we don't see Marty for a year or 11 months. I think the plan was they were going to do Marty and Shawn at WrestleMania 8, which makes the most sense. And Marty's Marty. Marty gets into his troubles. So we've really had 11 months to kind of forget about Marty. That being said, a year ain't that long of a time. And the way they did it was great. Sherry was holding up the mirror for Shawn. and Marty in a Guns N' Roses t-shirt and cowboy boots and pants. Thankfully, he's wearing whitewashed jeans. See, in '93, Marty still thought it was '88, and I think that was the thing. Anyway, they both had mullets anyway, but whatever. Marty comes in, and a great camera shot, because the camera is miraculously not in this shot, and it blew my mind. So they recapped this event on Superstars, the Saturday morning syndicated show, where Shawn is in the mirror. He just beat some ham and egger. Or no, I don't think he did. I think Marty told the guy to get out of the ring or something. It really doesn't make a difference. Shawn's looking in the mirror, and he's looking at his hair. He's playing with his hair. And you see Marty in the mirror behind Shawn, and Shawn gets to look in the mirror and see, and of course, like he's seen a ghost, he gets to look in the mirror and see Marty's face, and it's great. And Marty's about to start punching Shawn, and Marty does this weird hopping, like he smashes his feet against the ring like way too many times before he starts. He punches Shawn, gives Shawn a big back body drop. Oh, I love those. You don't see enough of them. And Marty grabs the mirror from Sherry. He goes to swing at Shawn. Shawn pulls Sherry in the way because he never really cared about her. He was that much of a jerk. And Sherry gets hit with the broken glass. And Marty is still the baby face, as pissed as he is. He did not want to hit Sherry with a mirror. And Shawn takes off, of course. And this leads to this match. Okay. I want to say something else. The recap of this whole event, the recap of the event is them playing the event, which is like a 2-minute angle. 3, maybe? I don't even think. That's it. That was the recap. The 2-minute thing that happened, we'll show it to you. Here it is. Not a 7-minute, goddamn 3 different, every produced piece for the last 4 weeks that's 5 minutes long, with all the music and all the effects. No, it's on December, whatever the hell it was, January, whatever, on Superstars. This shit happened. Here is the shit that happened. We played it. We hit play. And when we were done showing you the shit that happened, you know, we pressed fucking stop. I'm sorry. To get you through the pay-per-view. Because you paid for the matches on a pay-per-view. With the goddamn packages. Ugh. God, I hate modern pay-per-views so much. The day is going to come where I give up on all the modern stuff and just do the old stuff. The problem is with old stuff, you run out of it. No one's making more old stuff. Unless you watch Sun Bob G.I. Joe cartoons. Okay, dokie. Did I specify that for only a few people any further? So Shawn and Sherry, and Shawn and Marty and Sherry have this match. Sherry comes out by herself, and she's not looking at Shawn. She's not looking at Marty. She's playing it neutral. And they have their back and forth match. Now, a couple of things I want to say about this match. Early on, rather than at the beginning of the match or whatever, some big long interview or segment, actually during the match, we find out Sherry where she stands. Of course, Bobby Heenan's going to say she still loves Shawn, everything's fine, and Gorilla's going to say, yeah, she hates that prick for letting her get hit with a mirror. And Sherry slaps Shawn. I think it's on the outside of the ring, too. Near the ring apron, which is the heart, you know. Sherry slaps Shawn. And goddamn, she laid it in. Oh, yeah. Awesome. And everyone reacted, and Shawn sold it. It was the biggest pop of that match was Sherry slapping Shawn. Shawn and Marty have this match. It's great for 2 or 3 minutes. It's fast and furious, but man, it peters out. And listen, I'm not an idiot. I know during the heat, it's got to slow down, and Shawn's got to slow it down, blah, blah, blah. This was, to me, it was a bit too much wrestling for how much these two guys hated each other. Like, they should only be trying to out-wrestle and out-maneuver and out-quick each other as a point of pride because they hate the other guy so much, not because they're having this showy scientific wrestling match. Supposedly, the scuttlebutt, the story in this match was Marty had gone out partying hard the night before, and Shawn pretty much ratted him out for the match not being so great. And Marty was gone from the company, I think, right after it, and then he came back again in May and did a trade-off with the belt for 2 weeks with Shawn, and that's how they brought Diesel in later, and yada yada. And Marty, again, would be like hired and rehired like 5, 6, 7 times over the next couple of years. It was insane. But yeah, so Marty disappeared after this, too. The Mr. Perfect influence, because here's the other thing about this whole crew. We talk about the Click. Oh, Shawn, Razor, Diesel, the Kid, Triple H, the Click, the Click, the Click. The unofficial godfather of the Click in many ways was Mr. Perfect. Kurt Hennig was the guy they all looked up to. Um, there was a trade-off where they were both doing Kurt Hennig moves, and I have to think of what the hell it was. It's gonna get me. It's gonna kill me. Oh yeah, Shawn is he's on the outside of the ring, and Marty would jump off the apron and then off the top turn. The apron's the hardest part of the ring, and the top turnbuckle, and he would just do like a fist, a jumping landing punch onto Shawn, and Shawn would take this twisty corkscrew bump on the outside. Like twice he did it. That was so Mr. Perfect. That could not possibly be any more Mr. Perfect. And you'll see it again later in the another Click member, Razor and Bret, of course, who wrestled Perfect endless times. You'll see it again later on, and I'll mention it when we get there. So tons of Mr. Perfect influence in this, and this is an AWA. This is a mid '80s AWA crew because the Midnight Rockers are Marty and Shawn. Sherry Martel was not really managing, I think, but wrestling at the time there, and obviously son of Larry the Axe, Kurt Hennig was there, and Scott Hall was there. So there was a very AWA, and Rick Rude, I think, a little bit before that. So there was a very AWA-ish Minnesota crew already in place. So for Sherry to be there in between Marty and Shawn was kind of poetic in a way, and I think that's one of the reasons they put Sherry with Shawn to begin with. Sherry with Shawn to be, so that they go, okay, she knows him. There's a bit of a trust there, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, that's when that shit mattered. Now they just do what they tell you to do. Oh, yeah, I'm lucky to have a job. I'm a big bad. I'm gonna kick everyone's ass, but I'm just happy to be here. Well, that'll get you over, you fucking idiots. I'm in a mood. I'm hungry. That's why I want my chicken sandwich. And I'm not gonna pause it again. Okay, so they do this back and forth match. Shawn's working the arm, which is odd. And again, that's another thing too. Shawn doesn't work the shoulder and the arm. I think it was kind of petering out. Shawn looked frustrated, but then again, I mean, he's a good worker, so maybe he's supposed to look frustrated. I'm not really sure. But Shawn does win this thing. There's a bit of confusion. Eventually, Sherry goes to hit Shawn with a shoe, and she hits Marty with the shoe by accident. And then I think he hits the chin music. I don't know if I mean, obviously he wasn't doing the chin music, the setup, the stomp, and all that. That came much later when he was turning babyface and all that crap. But he did it as a heel, but he just didn't do the big setup. I'm just saying, I think his goofy side suplex where he grabs you by your balls or something, I think that was long gone, or that was just recently he got rid of that because it was just his prettiest move, and he was a pretty wrestler at the time. He was a flashy and pretty type of wrestler, so and it made sense. He could hit on anyone. That's a big one. So Shawn wins the thing, and he just kind of gets out of there, and Sherry. Sherry gets out of there. She runs away, and she's in the backstage with Okerlund, and she's screaming, and now the old Sherry's coming out, the one who screams and throws tantrums and everything. And Okerlund's trying to calm her down, and Okerlund, again, they just let them be themselves. And Okerlund just, at the time, very un-Okerlund-like before they made him yell in WCW to be ironic. This is a very un-Okerlund-like thing to do in 1993 January. He just yells. He just yells. He never yelled. He yelled at Sherry, "Damn it, settle down!" Fucking brilliant. And then we have a commercial for The Office with Steve Carell and a bunch of improv nerds because I'm watching the goddamn Peacock and they can't interrupt awesome shit without reminding me of the one nerdy ass huge thing that everyone watches on that fucking program. It should just be the Law and Order SVU and The Office Network. And because of them, every YouTube ad that I watch is them telling me to go on back on Peacock and watch this John Wayne Gacy fucking documentary. So I'll be watching something awesome about He-Man or whatever, or G.I. Joe's, one of the videos that you guys make, such as Chasing 80s Toys with Chris Mila. I'll be watching something fun and awesome like that, and then I'll stop and I'll be like, "The killer clown murdered 32 teenage boys." Like, oh, motherfucker, I was trying to relax on YouTube. I'm relaxed. I'm not relaxed. How long is this going to go? Oh, Jesus. Okay. Damn it, settle down, Bob. I need Okerlund to shake me. So we go to Bam Bam Bigelow, who just returned, and he wrestles and defeats the Big Boss Man. Nothing much to say here. Two big men. It was going to be slower than Shawn and Marty. Unfortunately, Marty and Shawn was probably supposed to be a little bit faster and more action. I'm not saying they should have flown more and done more flips. It wouldn't have made more sense, but they could have moved more. It could have been a lot more movement. And they did it. They did this crazy like 2 minute spot on a Monday Night Raw in May of whenever, I think when the match where Marty won it. But that was 4 months. Excuse me. That was 4 months away. Who the fuck cares? We didn't know about it yet. The Bammer wins. He does his headbutt off the top on a Boss Man, and I think the Boss Man left shortly after this. He had his hand in a cast. Weird because the pay-per-view before, Boss Man beat Nails in that nightstick thing, but then Nails got fired for choking Vince McMahon, and Boss Man had not much to do, and maybe he wanted to take time off. I think he went to WCW later that year. Probably enjoyed the lighter schedule, and blah, 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 blah. Softer rings, by the way. We recap. Again, we're recapping the WWF Championship match. Now, this match could have probably been set up with a little bit more than a 90-second backstage skit, but it wasn't. What can you do? Raymond Rougeau was talking to Owen Hart, and out of nowhere, Razor Ramon clotheslines Owen Hart off a bench, and he hits him with one of those metal trash cans that actually went extinct from the world using them everywhere except professional wrestling around that time, but yet there's always one laying around under the ring for some reason, and Razor hits Owen with the thing, and that was a big deal to hit Owen with one trash can shot, and this makes Bret extra mad. And then we have a commercial for the NBA, because that's Peacock. Then they do a pre-taped with Razor, so I think a lot of these network things they really just take them from their Coliseum home video releases. Because I don't think the pay-per-view releases, like I mentioned when I did the 92 Rumble, they have that thing with Ric Flair saying, Lord Alfred Hayes, I drew number 3. No fucking way that aired on the pay-per-view. No way. Couldn't have been. They would have never done that, because they weren't yet stupid enough to give away Royal Rumble entrant numbers. Whew. They are now. So, again, the package is just them showing what happened. Here's the 2-minute thing that you need to know happened. Oh, my point was they did a pre-taped with Razor in the arena the day before, and it was at a basketball game, whatever arena that is, in Sacramento. I think it's Sacramento. It's Northern California somewhere. And so that was that. And I think that then they would just add those things in the Coliseum, so just so they could put on the VHS exclusive shit, and it's just shit. It doesn't mean anything. But anyway, I think it was Razor telling also Raymond Rougeau, It was really silly because Bobby Heenan did the promo for Razor, like it was Heenan and Gorilla just going, hey, Razor's gonna have gold on his neck, on his hands, and on his fingers, and then his waist. And then Razor said the exact same thing in the next video promo with Raymond Rougeau. So that was very silly, but whatever. Be that as it may. Why did I wrote close up? Who got a close up? What does this say? Finish close up? I don't know what the hell I wrote. Oh well. So Okerlund is talking to Bret Hart, and oh, poor Bret. Bret cuts a rough promo. His words did really just did. He just said words. Revenge, championship, wrestle, Canada, pink, sunglasses, Owen, Ico Pro. I don't know what the fuck he said, but it wasn't coherent, and he didn't get into the habit of ending it with the best there is. But yeah, I hate saying the whole thing. And he didn't say excellence of execution. Like he didn't have those. He didn't start leaning on those yet, and I think he totally should have. But he was shortly after. Interesting shot of the gorilla position because Bret pretty much cuts that thing to Okerlund. I think that's another thing too because Bret probably, if I'm guessing, I think Bret might have been grumpy. Bret probably didn't enjoy having to do that thing with Okerlund and then do it. I think it was live because then he walked right out of Gorilla, and you didn't really see those shots ever back then. Vince McMahon was not in this shot because I looked, but somebody was at that. I couldn't make out Bruce anyway. Someone with a lot of gray hair was sitting back there. I don't know who it was. No, it was not Jack Tunney. It was just at one of those random like picnic tables that you just have papers on, and then he just walked through a curtain, and that was the end of it. So, what was my point there? Bret wrestles Razor. The Mr. Perfect stuff, yeah. Bret's kicking Razor in the hamstring, and every time Razor gets kicked, he grabs the top rope and uses that to help him take a bump near the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, but it's still on the inside of the rope. So they did a couple of those, which are classic Mr. Perfect spots. And then Bret takes Razor's leg, he bounces it on the bottom rope and presses off it and lands with his butt on the inside of Razor's knee, which is also a thing. I can't really call that a Mr. Perfect spot because Flair did it and a lot of guys did, but Perfect also did like to do it. It was just back-to-back Mr. Perfect, who is on this show, by the way. So a lot of that is what I was mentioning early on. What the hell did I mean by this close-up? Who the fuck cares? So Bret's selling the ribs, and Bret takes this wild bump across the ring post. Oh, punches! I should have mentioned this up top. See, this is why Bret's so goddamn smart. When I'm watching this match, I'm like, he wore too much pink in this match, unfortunately, but whatever. I'm watching this match. This match made more sense than Marty and Shawn because Bret starts off. This is the guy. Yeah, it's a championship match, but the guy hit his brother with a trash can, which could take you out for a week in 1993. But so Bret's punching away, and his punches look amazing. And Razor's the bigger brawler, so he knee lifts him, and Razor's punching, and both of them are trading awesome-looking punches. And Bret starts taking the buckles, and the buckles are so goddamn good. And at one point, Razor's dropping elbows to the small of Bret's back. And right before, when Bret knows Razor's coming, right before he knows Razor's coming, he just pushes up or even acts like he's going to do a push-up, and then crumbles, and just all these little things just to make it look so good and so real. And when Bret took that bump where he wraps around the ring post with his ribs or his stomach, the place, the sympathy on Bret was totally there. They were cheering. They were starting to go wild for, let's go Bret, Bret making his comeback. And Stu and Helen were in the audience, just saying. And of course, Bobby Heenan having a lot of fun with Bret and being a pro Razor guy. Just a good classic match. I mean, this really wasn't much of a feud. It was a one-incident thing. They just had to make something up. Because I think Razor was the only legitimate contender for. There's no other heel that could have gone in there with Bret at that time. I guess Flair wasn't feeling so well, and Flair was doing other stuff with Perfect. Flair was on his way out, but we'll get to that in a second. So Flair wouldn't have been the best choice, I guess. Who's your other biggest heel? Well, it can't be Yoko, because Yoko's busy later. So Razor's there. And it had to be someone didn't have to be someone bigger than Bret, but someone who can go. And I think compared to like a Papa Shango or whatever, Razor would just be the better choice. As far as who Bret could have the best match with. Bret does win. He does a lot of cool stuff with Razor. He slips out of the Razor's edge. They protected the Razor's edge. Razor did not hit it. Because if he hit it, he'd want the pinfall. So that was smart. I bet you I wouldn't be surprised if Razor Scott Hall had something to say about that. Not too surprised that, he protected his finish. Bret was doing a little bit of fish out of water stuff with back and forth with the sunset flips. On one of the sunset flips, Bret kind of entangled his legs with Razor, and he hooked a sharpshooter on Razor. Razor submits. Also, Razor, Bret, Bam Bam, Boss Man, Marty, Shawn also all get 5 stars. This match has got 5. They're all 5-star matches. 5 stars. 5. Don't question the system. Okay, this. I always forget about this. I think about this show because it wasn't a match. The entire night, Bobby Heenan cannot stop talking about he's going to unveil the narcissist, Lex Luger. Now, why did I stumble on that word? Because I got confused. Why did I get confused? Because Heenan, the entire night, from A to Z, calls him Narcissus. He can't say narcissist, or no one knew how to say narcissist. I was 13. Actually, I was 12. I was almost 13. I never heard the word before. But yeah, he just all night long, the Narcissus. And I didn't know, even then, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to say that. Thankfully, it was Lex Luger, and I knew who Lex Luger was, so I'm just going to call him Lex Luger as best I can. The Narcissus, and anyway. So Lex Luger poses in front of a bunch of mirrors in his goofy outfit and his music, and Bobby Heenan, because you can't just watch Lex posing to music. So Bobby Heenan is fawning in a comical manner over every muscle on Lex Luger's body and having a near orgasmic experience every time Lex flexes, and it's just so over the top and so perfect. And Lex says something boring, and then Heenan goes back to Gorilla, and as Gorilla is telling us, hey, Oh, by the way, two actors who played Caesar and Cleopatra were there because the upcoming WrestleMania was in Las Vegas, so we needed Julius Caesar and Cleopatra to be there. I don't know why. So Gorilla's trying to sell that crap on us, and Heenan's just like egging him on like a child. Like, did you see? Like, did you see me jump in the swimming pool? Like, did you see? Did you see my dive? Did you see it? And Gorilla turns like an annoyed parent. What? What do you want? Narcissus! Did you see the pecs and the thighs and the traps and the... Oh, will you stop? I will have you removed. Beautiful. So beautiful. He made it fun without making the wrestler look stupid. Bobby Heenan didn't make Lex Luger look stupid. Lex Luger looked like $1 million. Bobby Heenan made Bobby Heenan look stupid. Because that's what you needed to do. Let me drink more water. Oh, it's getting late. Okay. So this is where Rumble happens. Why is this Rumble special? Well, 92, the year before, the vacant championship was the first time the Royal Rumble meant anything. Why are we having this match? It's a great concept. A lot of people find it to be fun and the most fun of the year. Why are we having it? Well, good question. So in 92, when the title was vacated a month or two before, okay, well, there's a good reason why we were having this match, because we need a champion, so we might as well have the Royal Rumble for the first time to be for the vacant championship. They never did it since. They did similar gimmicks, but not exactly this. 93 was the first year since to this day that the winner of the Rumble gets a championship title opportunity at WrestleMania. And they've done it every year since. And was this the greatest Rumble? No, it wasn't. But it's historic and the first time that it meant something. And it gave, now you can really tell, because it gave Gorilla and Bobby, for the previous 2 years, 92 and 93, they had something to talk about. My theory, and I base this on nothing, I have no inside knowledge or yada yada yada. My theory is that 91 was the eye-opener. Here's what I mean. Okay, take 88 out of the equation. That was like a USA Network type of, experiment, more or less. Let's take 88 out of it. Yeah, let's do the match on TV, see what it looks like. 89 and 90 had colossal angles involving Hulk Hogan in the middle of them. So the finish was kind of semantics, it was all academic, as Gorilla would say. Stick a fork in him, he's done. And the finish just kind of make him a little happy. But 89 had the big Mega Powers blow up where Savage gets accidentally eliminated by Hogan. He slaps Hogan and yada yada yada. And for whatever fucking reason, Big John Studd wins it. That was really kind of I would have just let Hogan win the thing. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not a Hogan guy, but whatever. But that was the story of the match. That was what everyone remembers. And it had fun things like Andre running away from Damien the Snake, so eliminating himself. Axe and Smash were 1 and 2 in 89. That was a big deal to see the tag team champions, especially these. Yeah, they were super over too in that time. So that was a big deal. In 90, of course, Hogan Warrior was the big thing in the middle, which no one thought they would see. And he had angles in the middle like DiBiase and Jake, Macho King then, and Dusty Rhodes, etc., etc. Earthquake, they all ganged up on. And then eventually Hogan he fights off the heels. Rude and Perfect, he fights them off. He beats them. Okay. 91, in my opinion, was not a good Royal Rumble match. And really uneventful. Because there was no major angle in the middle of it. Or even at the end. At the end, Hogan knocked Earthquake out. Hulk had already pretty much gotten the best of Earthquake in one way or another. He hadn't pinned him on pay-per-view, I guess, but he pretty much knocked him around, and he probably beat him on house shows all over the place, and it was just, too little too late. So, there were no major angles or anything interesting going on in the 91 Rumble. It was the first time you saw The Undertaker or the Legion of Doom in a Rumble, which was historic looking back, but not really historic at the time. Martel and Jake hated each other, and they did like one little thing. I think Martel took Jake out of the match, of course. Jake was never in those things for very long. And that was the year Martel went for a long time, too. The Bulldog was in, and, So, okay. Nothing happened. And the story of the show was the Warrior Slaughter title change and Macho King running away, and Macho King didn't make the Rumble, so there were 29 guys in that one, and they had one entrant. They just let it go blank. So I think they could have done something. I don't know. I don't want to get started on the 91 Rumble and just, armchair book the whole fucking thing. My point is, I think 91 was the eye opener, where someone must have said, someone up in charge, whether it's the highest up or one of the higher ups to the highest up, somebody must have said, oof, what the fuck was the point of that match? Nobody cared. There was no reason to care. They're fighting for nothing. Yes, Hogan win it. Hogan did technically win that match and go on to challenge Slaughter for the championship at that following WrestleMania, but that had nothing to do with the Royal Rumble. It was just like, oh, when Hogan wins it because he's Hogan, and we'll give him the title shot later on just because he's Hulk Hogan. So, okay. I mean, that's fine, I guess. But I think 92 had a big reason, but you can't vacate the title every December conveniently. So January 93 was when they finally said, okay, what is the reason for this match? We're going to give it a reason. And it's one of the very few traditions they really held on to. Because really, it'll be 29 years in 5 or 6 months or whatever it is. So 28 years later, they're still doing that. For one, and I know it's for one of the champ of the brand, whatever. It's the same at WrestleMania. You fight for a world championship, all right. So, with that said, we start off with Howard Finkel announcing the rules, and I put this in parentheses. Next, Ric Flair is number 1. He was number 3 the previous year when he won. Ric Flair is number 1 here. And this is where Bobby Heenan's like, okay, he can't possibly get a worse number than number 3 last year. And of course, he gets number 1, LOL. Howard Finkel says these words I love to hear. He says, let us all find out who drew number 1. Pause. Music, wrestler. And only numbers 1 and 2 got music, and Bob Backlund was number 2. He had no music. So really, and when Yokozuna won, they played the Julius Caesar music. So really, Ric Flair is the only guy who had his music played in his whole match. How about that? Ric Flair comes out in his red tights and his red robe. And he's in there with Bob Backlund, who's 43 years old. And they cannot stop talking about how old Bob Backlund is. And I think Ric Flair is the exact same age, which is hilarious. Flair and Backlund, and a dream match, too. And I wish at the time I was able to appreciate what a dream match it was at the time. Just have Ric Flair and Bob Backlund in there at the same time. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to appreciate it. What the hell? Do I have new neighbors again? That on the other side of the wall, things were empty for so long. I don't know. Anyway, Papa Shango is number 3. He doesn't last very long. Somebody throws him out. $1 Million Man runs in, and Brian Knobbs, Virgil's number 6. Jerry Lawler's number 7. Jerry Lawler came out to a lot of boos. They really hated him. Lawler was new to most of the audience, who didn't know things about Memphis or whatever, or who didn't read a lot of wrestling magazines. But he had been, at least for only like a month or so, the co-host with Vince McMahon on WWF Superstars. Jesus, Bob, what year is it? And this is a lot of fun, too. You get to hear little things like Bobby say, oh, Lawler, he's the host of that program. And Gorilla Monsoon says, keep in mind, Vince is just an announcer in our minds. Gorilla Monsoon says, I thought Vince McMahon was the host. And Bobby says, Vince, I think he just gets everybody coffee. Perfect. Max Moon shows up. I don't think he lasted very long. Tenru, just LOL I wrote, to no reaction. Nobody cared. Mr. Perfect is number 10. He comes out to a colossal pop. They went nuts for Mr. Perfect. And the crowd was not dead. There are lulls, especially in this match, and throughout the show. So far, they cared most about. They liked the Steiners' athleticism. They liked Bret Hart and his comeback and his victory. They liked. They started to like Marty and Shawn, I think. I think they cared most when Sherry slapped them. So they hated Shawn more than they loved Marty. But we're done with that match. Okay. Mr. Perfect comes out to a huge reaction. He takes some people. He took Skinner out. But more importantly, he takes out Ric Flair. So Ric Flair was like third eliminated, something like that. Yeah, Shango was out, Knobs was out. I forget how. Maybe DiBiase was feuding with them. Nasty Boys were good guys at the time. It was just weird. And they didn't last much longer after that. Flair. Flair is clotheslined out, and he almost gets stuck on a rope, and Perfect has to edge him out a little bit. So Perfect takes out Ric Flair and jumps and celebrates and smiles, which he never did. He was usually too cool for that shit, but he does. And people go crazy for eliminating Ric Flair after, geez, I don't know, 1 to 10. Yeah, Flair would have been in there 20 minutes, but I don't know if they were doing the, I don't know how gimmick the clock was, so anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, Ric Flair was in there and did what he did because they were expecting him to go the distance again and yada, yada, yada. And Perfect takes him out. And they knew there was going to be a career-ending match between the two of them the next night on Raw. I have no idea if that Raw was taped or live. So if that Raw was taped the next night, then this actually was Ric Flair's last WWF appearance for that run. I like to think the next night's Raw was live, and that was the last one, but I honestly don't know. Curious. I actually am curious. I mean, I usually don't care about that shit. Yeah, Skinner would come in and get tossed by Perfect. Coco Beware would come in. Head Shrinker Samu. Ah, I know that one. I was in a battle royal or two with him myself. Didn't do well. I should tell. Nah, I'll save that story. He was bored. No one cares what I did. The Berserker is in the ring. Mr. Perfect and Jerry Lawler. Right as Berserker gets in the ring, Perfect takes out Lawler, and Perfect is laying on a ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. And I think DiBiase and Coco as well were just also trying to get Perfect out, and Lawler was grabbing on. So Lawler pretty much helped Perfect get eliminated after he himself, Lawler, was eliminated. Virgil gets taken out in the middle of all that. Nobody cared. He actually had to go by because they sometimes eliminations got missed. These rumbles were not as pre-planned and perfect as okay. Number 17, you come in, do your spot, and then everyone else conveniently goes to the corner. And everyone did go in these things and get their shit in, but a lot of guys just had to go in there and just work and feel it out and go where they felt they had to go. And sometimes cameras miss things. Sometimes guys, it rarely happens in the last 5-10 years, but yeah, a lot of guys will get eliminated during a countdown. So it'll be like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4. And on 5, somebody gets out, and the eyeballs aren't looking. The eyeballs are looking at the curtain for that 10 seconds. So I imagine if you're in that match for a while and you start hearing a countdown, you might as well just take a breather for a sec because no one's looking at you. They're looking at the curtain. But in this case, you don't have to look at the curtain because there's so many lights and buzzers and music playing to tell you exactly who's coming out. Have I complained enough yet about modern stuff? So Lawler and Perfect have a big pull apart. Coco and Ted, I think Coco and Terry Taylor comes out for some reason and gets eliminated by somebody. Yeah, Terry Taylor isn't in there long, and him and Coco get eliminated by DiBiase or something like that. Anyway, Undertaker's cleaning house. He takes out Samu with this choke slam over the top rope, and Samu seems to bang the back of his head or his neck on a ring apron. It's the hardest part of the ring, by the way. Taker takes out Samu. He takes out Berserker last. He takes out Ted DiBiase, and the people reacted huge. That's like a big deal. And if you cared, DiBiase brought him in their storylines. Storylines, I hate saying that, but whatever. Who cares anymore? Undertaker's kicking all this ass, and Giant Gonzalez makes his debut. Giant Gonzalez. It's Elegante from WCW. He's in a furry costume. He's 8 feet tall. Harvey Whippleman is with him, who's very short to make him look even taller. You know what happens. Gonzalez is a big stare down. He bangs Undertaker around, and managers were not allowed to stick around ringside, so Paul Bearer had to go back. So there's a bit of confrontation, and Gonzalez does the chops to the top of Taker's head, knocks Taker backwards over the top rope, which I guess means he's eliminated, but didn't really matter. He gives Taker like a little choke slam, and wraps his right leg around the ring post. Gonzalez does to Taker for some reason, and he leaves and everything else. And Paul Bearer comes back with the urn. The Undertaker sits up, and this was the first time. When I first saw this as a youth, I actually did think this was kind of cool, as stupid as Gonzalez looked. because for the first time, Paul Bearer tried to use the urn to bring the Undertaker, make him do his sit-up, make him rise, and Taker did it, but he struggled with it, and that never happened before. Taker never had trouble doing the sit-up before, and looked beaten up and bewildered and confused. The Taker just goes off to the back. Damien Demento had entered during all this. So this is the boring part of the Rumble, unfortunately. People just pile up, and there's no eliminations for a long time. And they're not incredibly exciting top stars, I'm sorry to say. At the time, Damien Demento is there. Bob Backlund is still there. They had the Berserker. You beat him up on the outside of the ring pretty good. Like body slam him on the concrete, like pull the mat up to give Bob something to sell. To keep Bob in there. So Bob Backlund's in there the entire time. And later he starts picking up steam and people start applauding because they just realize he drew number 2, so he's more or less the first one in there. And he's one of the final 3, and they start getting behind Bob. Damn right they did. Go get him, Bob. And anyway, Demento, IRS, Tatanka, Jerry Sags of the Nasty Boys, Typhoon, Fatu, Earthquake, Carlos Colon, who Gorilla Monsoon called a youngster, who was probably 50 at the time, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, all pile up. That's like 8 or 9 of them. No one's really being tossed, I don't think. Earthquake actually runs in and he gets Typhoon out. Went right to his tag team partner inexplicably and threw him out. It was kind of weird, but they did it. Bob Backlund took Fatu out somewhere around this time as well. Anyway, finally, Yokozuna gets in at the famous number 27, and he starts tossing guys. So he tosses Tito, he tosses Tatanka, I think he tosses Owen Hart, who comes in right after him. Repo Man is after Owen, and Randy Savage is number 30. Okay, Yoko and Earthquake have a big back and forth in Earthquake because people are going crazy for Earthquake. Everyone on this show, the biggest responses got to people they were historically attached to. If they knew you for the last couple of years, they cared, and if they didn't, they didn't. Except the Steiners. The Steiners got a good reaction up top. They didn't sound beloved. They sounded be liked. So who knows? They cared everything historical they cared about on this show. They didn't really care, unfortunately, I'm sorry, about Owen Hart and giant taxi cab driver pants. But they didn't hate him. They just, they didn't care. The Repo Man came out, they didn't give a shit. Yokozuna and Bob Backlund and Randy Savage are the final 3. I think Randy Savage only tosses one guy. He tosses the Repo Man. Got to give Randy somebody. Bob Backlund tosses Rick Martel. I think Martel was one of the final 4 then. Yeah, he was. So Bob Backlund does get tossed by Yokozuna, and the people, they like Bob Backlund. They were like, oh damn, this old man, this ancient 43-year-old man. They're all 43 now. Got tossed out to the outside, and it's Randy Savage. And if anyone could take out Yokozuna, it's Randy Savage. People were standing because Yoko and Randy had this like mini match, and people were standing for Randy Savage, who is in all his green splendor. The great camera shot. Randy was the only camera shot where they went directly. Camera was looking centered directly at the curtain when he came out with the big hat with the feather in it, and just really awesome camera shot. So Randy gets in there, and I can't recap it move for move, but he takes Yoko's big stuff, the big belly to belly, and that got a huge reaction. And a big leg drop from Yoko, and that got a craze. They were like, good God, Randy's dying in here. Because 92 to 94, Randy was really small, too. It's a shame, but he was a little guy. And Randy was only 5'11", I understand. 86, so Yoko does the big backsplash in the corner. Of course, Fuji, idiot manager, says do it again. Yoko does, he misses. Yoko falls backwards for no reason. Randy Savage drops the elbow, which at this time, also because of Yoko's placement, he just kind of falls off the top rope. But because he was Randy, technically coming off the buckle with an elbow, people went banana. And then I have changed my opinion. Arguably the greatest Royal Rumble finish of all time. Yokozuna supposedly bench presses or shoves Randy Savage off of him. Well, let me back up. Randy hits the big elbow. Randy then gets off of Yoko and gets back on him facing the other way to cover Yoko because he doesn't understand how Royal Rumbles work. And Yoko pushes up so Randy can jump, launch himself over the top rope, and be eliminated. This suggests that Yoko bench pressed Randy from the mat over the top rope. I loved it. I don't care. At this point, I'm like, that's the least dumb thing I've seen in 2021, and I loved it. I loved it. I don't care. And once Yoko, I don't know if this was during the Rumble or right when Yoko won, but Gorilla said something about Mr. Fuji, Japanese heritage, you know, making Japan proud. Yoko looks right at the camera and goes, Samoa! Like, fucking hilarious. And then Cleopatra and the Caesars show up, and Yoko leaves, and that didn't make. I just stopped it there. I didn't care. This is a really weird side note and not important, but yeah, it is. When Undertaker entered, you could see Mr. Perfect off to the side because him and Lawler just brawled, and Lawler just had been eliminated by Perfect in that whole big schmoz thing, and he kind of does a double take and stops because he almost walks right into Taker and Paul Bearer, which I don't know if it was planned or whatnot. It didn't seem like they were setting something up, but a lot of the times, you know, back then in a Wild West, everything probably was not nearly as micromanaged, and you just went back, you walked back when you walked back. They would never have that happen today unless they meant to make it go somewhere, unless it was part of a story. Or like you always see when Ric Flair enters the '92 Rumble, DiBiase always walks past him. Every time you see that shot, the announcers don't talk about it because DiBiase has nothing to do with that. He's the only guy in that Rumble Flair didn't touch. If it really matters, who cares? But yeah, because it just had nothing to do with anything. Guys are going to leave. They're just coming and going through the same small, and it's a much smaller entrance too. So the Undertaker just almost walked into Jerry Lawler. I mean, really, if you got to blame anyone, I mean, Lawler should hear. Does he hear everyone going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Does he hear everyone doing that? Because Perfect was way off to the side. You could barely see him, but in a bat. But he was wearing bright blue. I mean, you could kind of with blonde hair, and he's still actually a very big guy. You can, it's clearly Mr. Perfect. But little things like that, it just made everything more organic. Everything was a little more natural. I have no idea if Lawler was spoke, because Lawler doesn't do like a big Lawler sell. Oh my God, I'm so scared. He just kind of stops and goes, oh shit. So just those little things. And he was new there. He was new to the company and was new to the Rumble, so who knows. This is for Gorilla and Bobby. For everything on paper about this show that doesn't sound too interesting or too fun, it's actually a lot more fun than it sounds. And Gorilla and Bobby get you through all of it. It was 2 hours 45 minutes. Didn't really feel. I actually felt a little quicker. So for that, I recommend the 1993 Royal Rumble. It's 93 is really not one of the golden years. It's really the first real full solid new generation year, I think, in my mind. So that's not one of those Rumbles that's going to get any love. People just kind of make fun of the finish and the Gonzalez thing, and I get it. And 94 was really the big double finish and the Diesel thing. That's, but go on and on. 95 was Shawn being the first number one to win it, even though he's only in there like 30-some minutes because they did the whatever. But these, the golden era ones, the 90 and 92 and 89 and 88, they get all the love and the attention, but 93 was, you could see, I got the vibe of them trying to figure out what to do with Bret as the face, and they were still getting used to no Hulk. Because I think the first pay-per-view without Hulk was 92 SummerSlam, right? And Bret only had the belt like a few weeks before that Survivor Series too, so. And they just put him against Shawn just to really just have a good match. I mean, it was really nothing there. So, yeah, this was the figuring it out without Hulk Rumble. Definitely the first Rumble without Hulk, yeah. That was another thing, too. You didn't have that big Hulk to come in the mid-20 spots and just go, I'm going to throw 8 guys out, 7 guys out, and win the thing or whatever. Like, okay. We couldn't just go to that, so what do we do? So we had this brand new guy who I didn't think Yoko was gonna win the thing because he's brand new, even in my young 12-year-old wrestling brain. But also, why wouldn't he win? How do you get him out? Well, that's a conundrum. So who else is a believable challenger to Bret? Well, I guess after Razor, after Razor or Shawn, I mean, Yoko would be the guy, and they just did Bret and Shawn. So in a way, it actually kind of made sense. WrestleMania 9 is a different animal, but we're not going to talk about that today. I thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this out of nowhere, old school, hardest part of the ring. Because it's the hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da.